Okay, so the next part, what we're going to do is this circular part on the robot's arm. Now, I'm not going to do the entire robot during this video, but I want to show you some tips and tricks that you can use for your own metal collages. Okay, but I'm going to show you a really cool elliptical selection trick that you can use for circular parts on sketches. Now, I learned this from Scott Kelby, and he's such an awesome guy, so I'm going to go ahead and share the same trick with you. You might already know it. If you do, that's great, but I think it's just the coolest thing. But what it is let's come over here and select the elliptical marquee tool. And what you can do is hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, because that way you will get a circular selection that has a perfect aspect ratio. You see that? So while you have that selection with the Shift key held down, you have the mouse button pushed down, or tablet pushed down, whatever you're using. Well, if you want to move this selection, you can't really move it with just the mouse. So what you have to do is bring your thumb over and press the space bar. And now you can move that selection around. You can stop by releasing the space bar. Then you can go back to resizing that selection. So in this case, I can just bring this selection over the sketch here, this round object, and I can release the space bar, size that selection up, move it over, and match it perfectly. Look at that. So that's just a no-brainer right there. I mean, that's just so easy to do. All we have to do from there is just release the mouse, and you got it. So you have a perfect selection. And this, you can use this for anything, really. I mean, not just for making metal collages, but whatever you're touching up a photograph, or selecting an eyeball. It doesn't really matter. There's so many ways, or so many different things you can use with this technique here. But I thought it was the coolest thing, so I wanted to show it to you. Okay, I'm going to go back over to the viewer, and let's just come in here and figure out what we want to have go inside this round part, which looks like more like his, like the middle of his arm here. So we could probably take these little viewer eyes here, all these little circular shapes, and I'll go to Edit, Copy, and then I can go up here to Edit, Paste Into, and I can make one of these almost like or it's the area right where the arm, these two parts of the arms meet. So it would look like this is where it would bend. Then I'll come over here to Edit, Free Transform, and I'll just go ahead and resize this up so it fits in there really nice and snug, like that. And I can also flip this if it looks like, because you got to zoom in and out a lot just to really get an overall look. And this doesn't look very good because this is pointing up. It's almost going up, and it looks like his arm is going back. So if his arm's going back a little bit, then what we can do is flip that so it's pointing down a little bit. I can rotate this, and that'll make it look like it's pointing down a touch. I might even be able to use this other one here. So that looks much better, something like that. So you can see if you keep going like this, you can really create really cool stuff by having that sketch as a visual guide. There's one part though where I did not use the viewfinder or the viewer for this robot, and that's on the gun. All I did for this is I used this gradient tube, or created this gradient tube, and also these little areas on the side of the gun here. But everything else, even his little fingers, little fingernails, and all these things you see right here, these are all created with the finder, with the viewer right here. Let's move on to another part here. And even if it looks like it's going to be impossible, if you're not going to make the robot from the sketch, or if you're not going to make the collage from the sketch or whatever you have, you'll be very surprised. Like, such as this part right here, this rounded part just on his shoulder here. you know, it looks like to me that, you know, it's going to be very difficult to find a spot that I can find to really fit into this area. But you know what? I was very surprised, because let me show you something really quick. I'm going to come over here and move this out of the way, and we'll select our viewer and copy that into memory and go back here to the sketch. And I'll make this window just a little bit larger here. And I'll come up here to edit and paste into edit, free transform. And what I think I will do is resize this down and flip it upside down. That looks really cool, actually, but I have another idea. Let me go ahead and confirm that. And you can see that it's this part here, this metal piece, this lighter metal piece right here, is going outside of our selection or our selected area. So in this case, what we can do is zoom into it, and I can click on the mask for that selected area there on the shoulder. And what I can do is click on this mask, then I'll select the brush tool with white as the foreground. I'll come in here and paint on this mask and reveal just this part of the layer. So that way it will stick out over the robot's chest once we get in all these other areas around here. So yeah, you just have to be creative, but it can be done. And then the coolest thing and the biggest part of this is that you are following a sketch or some type of visual representation to guide you through in creating the metal collage. That's the most important part.